in a late-night executive order signed on Wednesday, former President Donald Trump initiated a sweeping measure aimed at eliminating several federal advisory committees in an effort to streamline government operations, reduce wasteful spending, and continue his long-standing pledge to drain the swamp. Trump's latest executive order targets federal advisory committees. The executive order specifically targets several federally funded organizations, including the Presidio Trust, the Inter-American Foundation, the United States African Development Foundation, and the United States Institute of Peace. These advisory committees and organizations, which have historically received federal funding, are now under orders to justify their existence or face dissolution. The Trump administration has framed this move as a necessary step in its ongoing mission to curtail government overreach and cut unnecessary expenditures that contribute to national debt and inflation. The timing of this decision aligns with the administration's broader initiative, led by the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which has been tasked with aggressively reducing the size of the federal government. In collaboration with influential business leaders, including tech mogul Elon Musk, this effort seeks to overhaul bureaucratic inefficiencies, minimize redundancy, and optimize government functions to be more fiscally responsible. Executive order requires immediate compliance from targeted agencies. As part of the executive order, the affected federal entities have been given a strict 14-day deadline to submit detailed reports to the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, OMB. These reports must include a declaration of compliance with the executive order justification for the continuation of their operations, detailed explanations regarding the necessity and impact of their governmental functions. Any entity that fails to adequately defend its relevance within the federal government will face immediate termination or restructuring. Expanding the cuts, additional government agencies on the chopping block. The executive order goes beyond these 4 targeted agencies and extends its reach to several advisory committees across different sectors. These include the Advisory Committee on Voluntary Foreign Aid, Administrator of USAID, ordered to terminate. The Academic Research Council and the Credit Union Advisory Council, Director of the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection, ordered to terminate. The Community Bank Advisory Council, FDIC Board required to terminate. The Secretary's Advisory Committee on Long COVID, Secretary of Health and Human Services, ordered to terminate. The Health Equity Advisory Committee, Administrator of CMS, required to terminate. Job cuts spark panic among federal workers. This announcement follows closely on the heels of another executive order signed by Trump on Tuesday, which instructed DOGE to coordinate with federal agencies and execute massive workforce reductions. Under this directive, federal agencies must adhere to a strict new hiring policy. For every 4 employees who leave their posts, only 1 may be replaced. The goal is to significantly shrink the size of the federal government within a short time frame. Furthermore, agencies are being instructed to develop plans for large-scale reductions in force, RIFs, which will involve identifying non-essential positions, evaluating potential mergers of agency functions, eliminating redundant or outdated bureaucratic processes. These unprecedented workforce reduction measures have sent waves of anxiety across the Washington, D.C. federal workforce, with employees reportedly experiencing heightened concerns over job security. Federal unions and worker advocacy groups are already preparing challenges to the administration's workforce policies. Trump's vision, draining the swamp, and cutting bureaucracy. The executive order also mandates that within 30 days, the President's Assistance for National Security Affairs, Economic Policy, and Domestic Policy submit a list of additional committees and boards that could be terminated or restructured. This suggests that Trump's government efficiency push is far from over and that more drastic measures could be on the horizon. A statement from the White House reinforced Trump's commitment to fulfilling his campaign promises, stating the American people elected President Trump to drain the swamp and eliminate ineffective government programs that serve only to empower bureaucracy without producing measurable results. This administration remains steadfast in its goal to streamline federal operations and return power to the people. Potential legal and political ramifications. Trump's aggressive executive action is likely to face legal challenges from advocacy groups, unions, and members of Congress who argue that these cuts could have severe consequences for public services and International Relations Institute of Peace, USIP, for example, has played a role in conflict resolution efforts around the world, and its elimination could be met with pushback from bipartisan lawmakers who believe in its mission. Similarly, the Inter-American Foundation and the U.S. African Development Foundation have historically supported development initiatives that help maintain diplomatic ties with Latin America and Africa. Their abrupt removal from federal funding could draw international criticism. On the domestic front, watchdog organizations and government oversight committees will likely scrutinize the decision, questioning whether the reallocation of resources and power consolidation under DOGE aligns with legal precedents. Public and political reactions to Trump's latest orders. Public reaction to the executive order has been polarizing. Trump's supporters see this as a bold move to eliminate waste and uphold his campaign pledge to cut government excess. They argue that federal bureaucracy has become bloated over the years and that these measures will restore accountability. Conversely, critics fear that hasty eliminations of federal advisory committees could have unintended consequences, disrupting research, international aid efforts, and financial oversight mechanisms. Democratic lawmakers and some moderate Republicans have voiced concerns, warning that Trump's executive actions might be too aggressive and disruptive. What's next? More cuts on the horizon. Trump's executive order signals that his administration is not done downsizing the federal government. The directive to review and identify additional committees for termination suggests that more eliminations could come in the near future. The next 30 days will be crucial as agencies scramble to justify their existence and federal workers brace for potential layoffs and department restructuring. Meanwhile, the White House remains firm in its position that these cuts are necessary to rein in government spending and curb inflation. Despite the uncertainty, one thing is clear: Trump's latest executive order is a defining moment in his continued push to reshape the federal government, reducing its size and influence in ways that will have lasting impacts on American governance. As the political and legal battles unfold, the future of many federal advisory boards and agencies remains uncertain. Whether these drastic measures will ultimately benefit taxpayers or create unintended disruptions is a question that will shape the next phase of the Trump administration's tenure in Washington.